Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Monday Night Show with me, James Hutchinson. Joining me tonight is Joe Scott. Welcome to the show, mate.
Yeah, bud, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Joe. Not too bad. You okay?
Yeah.
Good man. Good man. We've got Joe with us. Later on in the show, we've got Boro Fan of the Year, Yousef, joining us at around about 6:45. So any questions you've got for the lads on the Boro start of the season, the games with QPR coming up at the weekend, the past week's matches with Barnsley and Bournemouth. As always, Boro fans, we love to hear your thoughts and views. Get involved in tonight's show. Before we carry on any further, we just want to wish a speedy recovery to Neil Warnock as well. Get well soon, Gaffer. We hope to see you cycling around the roads in the northeast soon. So take care. We hope to see you back at the Riverside soon, pal.
Yep.
So, Joe, looking back, the weekend saw the first league game at the Riverside this season, and it was an unchanged lineup against Bournemouth from the one that played against Watford. Do you think, in a way, Joe, that's an illustration of how few options the management have, and also how disappointing the performance was against Barnsley in the League Cup?
Yeah, I think, regarding the cup game against Barnsley, I think Warnock had probably stated that he wasn't going to be interested in the Carabao Cup anyways. But going back to the, like I said, the Bournemouth game, there was some signs, from that side, we could have stick to, obviously we could have done, in my opinion, personal opinion, we could have had Sam Morsey in there instead of George Saville, but it's the Blackwell and Jepson's team to pick. Obviously with Warnock recovering from his coronavirus problems at the moment. But looking at the squad, I think it looked well set up, and I think we dominated, most of the game that we did against Watford. But then, obviously, we got caught with one defensive mix-up that we slipped up on, and then Solanke pounced on it with a deflection off Grant Hall. But I think we continued that performance going in, into the second half, and then Paddy McNair, challenging his inner kind of De Bruyne, so to speak, to pick out the goal. Obviously for Marcus Brown, obviously his first for the Boro, I believe, is it?
Yeah, it was. Thanks very much, Ryan, and thanks for everyone wishing me happy birthday today. Before we move off the Barnsley and the League Cup thing, I know you mentioned there about Neil Warnock, Joe. What was your reaction to the exit from the League Cup? Because obviously it's the only trophy we've ever won. It's one of 3 competitions we're in. Were you disappointed to go out of the League Cup at that stage against Barnsley?
Some people may say it's an improvement after we went out in the first round last season, the season beforehand. But you got to think though, I think it works 6 and 2 for us because because we don't want to be have a straining schedule on our hands, compared to and plus. I think there's better money that you can get offered from the FA Cup than it is in the League Cup. So, in a way, we got outdone pretty much against Barnsley, but you got to expect a different performance, because I don't know, James, it's just one of those, it's hard to picture.
There was a little bit of disappointment that we missed out on a trip to Chelsea, but I think in a way that's tempered a bit because normally, obviously, we'd have taken a lot of fans to Stamford Bridge in normal circumstances, but this year, obviously, no away fans. So I think that lessened the disappointment a little bit. But I just think, in terms of squad numbers, maybe another game this midweek was possibly a bridge too far, Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would have said, even though a trip to Chelsea would have benefited some Boro fans, but for the Boro, obviously playing against a big Premier League club who spent big in this transfer window. I mean, it's obviously just another story for another time, and obviously all the best to Barnsley for the game coming up against Chelsea. But it's either way, we have to take the Carabao Cup out of the equation now and just concentrate fully on the league, and we'll concentrate on the FA Cup. Obviously, when the time comes.
Yeah. Chris O'Callaghan was pulling us up straight away about a few of our comments with regards to the weekend's game with Bournemouth. He's saying that Saville had a pretty good game against Bournemouth, and I take that on board. I think he did improve, and he had a decent performance. And the midfield as a whole played well, which we'll touch on in a moment. But like you say, it was a surprise that Morsey played for over an hour in the League Cup game, and then he only got 3 minutes at the weekend. Or do you just think it's a case of building up his match fitness, Joe? Do you think he will eventually become a starter for the Boro?
Yeah, I think when I heard news that Sam Morsy was going to be coming to the club, I think it's the type of player that we probably would have been craving for ever since, Grant Ledbetter left. And Morsy seems to fit the bill quite well. Obviously, from what I've heard from other fans, he does love a yellow card or two. But that's the sort of player you would obviously want, like a leader in the midfield who can obviously get forward if it has the chance, and obviously has an eye for goal, and obviously he works with the defenders as well, which we obviously need.
Yeah. Chris Sykes, thanks for watching the show, mate. Made the point here that he thinks we've played well in both the league games we've had so far this season, and looking forward to a better season than last, with a few more players coming in, and that we may surprise people. We'll talk about the Championship in general later on in the show, Joe, but in fairness, when the fixtures came out and we got Watford and Bournemouth as our first two games, sides that have just been relegated out of the Premier League, do you think we could have had a much tougher start, or do you think it's as tough as it gets in the Championship?
It'd probably be as tough as it gets, because obviously compared to the season that we had last before, where we had Luton Town, who had just been promoted from League One, it's an absolute difference where you can have one season you can start off playing against someone that's been promoted from League One, compared to start the season against two teams that are already relegated from the Premier League. So I don't think we could have asked for a tougher start, and plus with the trips to QPR to come, you couldn't have asked for a bit tougher start to the campaign ahead, to be honest.
Yeah, that's been tough. I mean, going on the weekend's game, obviously it was Bournemouth at the Riverside, and there was 1,000 Boro fans that were allowed into the ground, and they were lucky enough to secure tickets for that game. I don't know about you. I mean, if you've seen anything after the game or during the game at the weekend, but I thought the players received fantastic backing from those fans that were in the ground. Just little things like it was great to hear "Come on, Boro" being shouted during the game, and the roar when we got the equaliser, like things like the opposition players getting booed during the game, stuff like that. It did make a massive difference, didn't it, having those fans in the ground? Certainly.
I think they were obviously missed, because during the whole pandemic sort of things, but. Like I said, whether that will be upped a little bit, within the course of the next couple of weeks is looking highly unlikely at the moment, obviously because we're the threat of another lockdown looming for a couple of weeks. So it was good having the fans in for that game against Bournemouth, but judging by if we're going to get 10,000 in for the game against Barnsley in a couple of weeks, it looks highly unlikely from there. We're going to have to wait another couple of weeks before we can get them 10,000 fans in. So it's just a matter of fact of playing a waiting game. But it was nice to have fans back at the ground, obviously, socially distant and all. But it was I think it was the backing that we so desperately needed, going up against a side like Bournemouth.
Yeah. Do you think it was like a show that we actually got a point and we ended our run of 4 consecutive home defeats with the fans in the ground?
Yeah, obviously when we restarted last season, obviously those the 4 games that we had left at home, we suffered back-to-back defeats from them, and that certainly didn't boost our morale whatsoever. But I think those 1,000 who did make it into the Riverside were certainly the main turning point for us getting a point against Bournemouth.
Yeah. Oh, Chris was again. Chris was one of the 1,000 that was there, and he said that the atmosphere was spot on, especially with the number that were in the ground. We said hopefully it won't be long before more people are allowed back in, and I think we all echo that. Hopefully, like you said, fans may be in for the Barnsley game, but if not, when the fans are back in, I'm sure they'll make a big difference to Boro in their season.
Definitely. Whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, obviously, it'd be good to have most fans back at the Riverside. Even it'll have to be, probably socially distant for probably within the next couple of months.
Yeah.
But hopefully, either 1,000 or 10,000. Hopefully, the support will make a massive difference for the lads for this upcoming season.
Looking at the game against Bournemouth, Joe, as with the Watford match, we conceded again from a set piece, and that's been a bit of an issue for Boro for some time. Defending corners, and it doesn't seem to matter who we have in defence or who we have in goal. It's a problem. Why do you think that's the case, Joe?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Obviously, I've heard some some people saying about, when regarding Bettinelli, that he's quite vulnerable when he comes to crosses or corners. And obviously, there was a couple of points where obviously it has proven that, But I think, Grant Hall, regardless of or not, because he actually could be at fault for both of them goals that we conceded this season. Where it's just one of those, you can't blame it. It might be a confidence thing going on in the defensive line, and obviously some players are playing in a new system, like Dijksteel, for example, who's actually getting the benefit of it. He's been playing well the last few games.
Yes. He's like a rejuvenated player, isn't he?
He has, yeah.
He's earned a starting place in the team now, and as a central defender, he's really impressed. I think Boro fans and pundits alike. What have you made of his performances, Joe?
Well, from what I've heard, I think he's obviously, obviously his natural position as right wing back has obviously been given to Spence, but I think playing in centre back obviously has done him the world of good. Obviously, he's learning from Fry and Hall. I've been playing in that central position, and obviously, whatever Warnock believes in him, obviously playing in that position has obviously worked wonders for him. So hopefully, long may that continue, and obviously, unless obviously we buy another centre back in this in a couple of weeks before the window closes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, George, in the opening 45 minutes, like the Watford game, I thought we were okay up to a point, but we were struggling to create some openings.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a fair assumption, Joe?
It might be a fair assumption. Obviously, like I said, we did play well, and obviously, we had a couple of chances in the game, which obviously, Sombalonga had a couple, but we didn't take. It was either going over the top, or most of the time, a couple of them were saved by Ben Foster, and I think it was one of those things. I think we were unlucky not to draw with Watford to begin with, and obviously, the Bournemouth game, I would have preferred us getting a point anyway. So it'll certainly be a lot to improve on, because obviously we're playing well, and it's just a matter of getting the killer instinct in front of goal. Obviously, we're going to touch on the QPR game very, very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, there's a lot to improve on, and particularly the next game, we can build upon that.
Yeah. And like you say, we mentioned earlier, Joe, we've had 2 games so far against Watford and Bournemouth, who were in the Premier League last season, and we've limited them to very few opportunities. But do you think in a way that's because we're sacrificing some of our creative instincts going forward as well?
Yeah, you can tell that we're not moving a lot. Obviously, we have Tavernier and Brown, I think, who can occupy the wing positions also, and Johnson as well. I think, there's a couple of gaps which obviously need filling with the transfer window closing in a few weeks. So unless we could bring in at least one winger, I think, to the club, and obviously another striker, I think I'll consider that business done on the transfer front. But obviously, we'll have to wait over the next couple of weeks, for things to improve, But like I said, it's Warnock's team at the end of the day, and it's up to him to decide what he wants to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe when we play some of the other sides in the Championships, and maybe not teams like Watford and Bournemouth, that Warnock will let free the shackles a little bit, will become a bit more expansive and a bit more on the front foot against some of those sides? I mean, we were against Bournemouth really at the weekend, but do you think he'll have more of a go at it against other sides in the Championship?
They'll probably have to, especially against the teams that have just come up as well. But obviously, we got the 2 recently relegated Premier League teams out the way, and our next few games against teams that have been consistent in the Championship. So hopefully Warnock will not afraid to pull the punches, and hopefully try and make a go for it against teams that are more used to Championship level and what they were when they were relegated from the Premier League.
Yeah. Darren Ouchin, watching Darren. Darren feels that our problem lies when creating chances, that we created a lot against Bournemouth and we just can't finish them, and we clearly need a striker who can score. I mean, I take on board what Darren's saying to a point, but I sometimes also think that the strikers are maybe feeding on scraps a little bit. I don't think Britt and Ashley Fletcher in the opening 2 games have had a sack full of chances, really, have they, Joe?
No, I think it's just down to luck in the end. Obviously we can rely on obviously Howson or Saville or McNair or Morsey or Tavernier or Brown or Spencer or Johnson, in fact, to give them the chance they needed. And obviously, there's been a few, but obviously it's not quite enough from some fans' perspective. So hopefully, a couple of more players can come in, and obviously that can all change it. And obviously with Chuba Akpom as well coming in, with his height as well, and hopefully, if there's any chances that we can feed the ball over to Akpom, hopefully he could convert them. Obviously, because I think Ashley Fletcher, took a knock in the game on Saturday. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be available for the QPR game. But so if not, there's a space open in there for Akpom to feed upon. Obviously, if Fletcher can't make the QPR game.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, Dave Towers makes a great point here. I think a lot of Boro fans that weren't at the game at the weekend will agree with. Over the past couple of seasons, the football hasn't been good at the Boro, but when you're unable to go, you do miss it massively, because it is an important part in all our lives, isn't it, Joe?
I think so. There's obviously sometimes as well where you need to take chances, but obviously we sometimes struggle to put our chances away. But in the end of the day, if we get the right players in time, obviously, chances or not, hopefully we can convert them, and hopefully we'll bring the good times back. But obviously, it'll take time, and obviously you can't judge it at the moment based on for the sides to gel, if you know what I mean.
Okay. I think we're having sound issues here at the moment. Joe, you able to just turn your volume down a touch, mate?
Yeah, hang on a sec.
We'll see how that works for us. Yeah? Is that all right? Can you hear me, Joe, all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good lad. Well, we'll see how that goes for us, okay?
Yeah.
Just going back to the Saturday game, Joe, there was a little bit of concern when Ashley Fletcher went off, as you mentioned earlier. But in fairness, his replacement, Marcus Brown, another one of last summer's signs, like we said about Dykesty earlier on, who maybe didn't enjoy the best of times last year. He played a big part in the game, and he got the equaliser. Do you expect him, like Dykesty, to have a bigger role to play this season?
Hopefully, because obviously Fletcher will obviously be the vital, asset we all need, along with Samba Longus. But I think, there's space to improve. Obviously, Dykesty, but Johnson, Fletcher, rather, I should say. We'll get my words muddled up there. Obviously, he's been the most improved player of last season, as some fans would say. So hopefully, Dykesty will probably be the most improved player of this season. Hopefully, if he keeps up the good form that he is currently in at the moment.
Yeah. And you mentioned at the top of the show as well, Joe, about likening Paddy McNair to Kevin De Bruyne. That was some ball he put in, wasn't it, for the equaliser?
Definitely, yeah. It was, yeah. I mean, there was a chance, Paddy McNair was obviously going to leave, obviously for Stoke in this transfer window, but obviously, I'm surprised that no one's gone back in for him yet. So hopefully, things come well for Paddy, and obviously, he'll be the most asset for us. Obviously, if he does go, possibly in January, possibly it'll be a big miss, but hopefully he sticks around for the long run for now.
Yeah. Well, just as you can see, we've been joined by Yousef. Welcome to the show, Yousef. You all right, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, James and Joe. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you well, mate.
Brilliant.
First of all, before we talk about the weekend's game, just want to congratulate you on your award for Boro Fan of the Year. Do you want to tell people about how that came about, Yousef?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, basically, about a month ago, maybe, or 6 weeks ago, they put a tweet out, the club, saying, would you like to nominate a fan of the year? And then, after a short while of that tweet, I got so many notifications, mentions on Twitter, and I thought, they've probably notified me because I'm in one of the photos or something. But then when I saw the notifications, it was tons of people nominating me for Boro Fan of the Year. And then, I was quite overwhelmed. I was surprised. I didn't expect so many people to nominate me. And then about when did they? So I found out 2 weeks ago, and they announced it. Sorry, I found out 3 weeks ago, and then they announced it 2 weeks ago. So a week before it was announced,
right.
Yvonne Ferguson from the club, she phoned me to say, "Congratulations, you've won it. Keep it a secret, and then we'll announce it sort of publicly shortly." So yeah, that's obviously humbling, and it was one of those things where, at the end of the day, I feel all Boro fans are equal, and I'm in a very privileged and lucky position that I'm able to afford it, and also I'm able to. I don't have any children or any other things that can stop me, and my job is flexible that allows me to go to a lot of Boro games. So I'm quite lucky. So I feel quite humbled by all the love.
Oh, there's a lot of people getting in touch with a lot of praise for you, because in fairness, you have some miles to cover to follow the Boro, don't you?
Yeah, I've had a few hours from London, but listen, so many people travel from many different places, and because I'm on social media, mine's a lot public knowledge. But I think I'm just quite lucky that I'm able to afford to be able to go, and I love it really.
Oh, good man. Well, it's richly deserved, Yousef. It really is. Chuff for you, mate. You were one of the lucky 1,000 that was in the Riverside at the weekend for the game with Bournemouth. What was the experience like?
Do you know what? I thought it was a very, very positive experience, considering that the club only found out on the Wednesday, I think, Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, it was Wednesday,
Wednesday afternoon they found out, and then for them to host a match where they allowed 1,000 fans, and I thought it was really, really good. A lot of the things that we were doing anyway is probably what a lot of people have been doing around the country anyway, in terms of social distancing, wearing face masks, hand sanitizing. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. So yeah, went to the game. We had to wear face masks, in the concourse and stuff, hand sanitized before we entered. We had to sit socially distanced from fans, so we had 3 seats empty that was next to us either side. So generally it was a different experience, but it didn't change the atmosphere. It was still quite loud at times. It was it was a strange start to the game, in the sense that you could hear a pin drop when the whistle started. It was like, can you cheer? Can you what's allowed? But I think as the game went on and we saw Dyke still make some unbelievable tackles, and we saw the team pressing. I think Kevin Blackwell alluded to it, that the fans responded to the players' performance, and we did. The players were terrific on Saturday. They worked very hard, created a few half chances, but it was more to do with the work rate that I was really pleased with. A lot of pressing, but atmosphere was, considering it was only 1,000, I thought it was very, very good. Yeah. And it was very loud when we got our goal. And hopefully the next game, I think, who's at the next home game?
Barnsley.
Barnsley, yeah, October 3rd. So hopefully we'll get 2,000. But we'll see. Fingers crossed, yeah.
Like you said, I mean, credit to the club. They were given very short notice, and they got 1,000 fans in there. And it sounds from not only yourself, Yousef, but other people that went, that it was a really positive experience. The players seem to benefit from it as well. So all's good. And like you say, hopefully more can be in for the next home game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fans behaved. They responded to it. There was no problems. There wasn't anyone refusing to, sanitize or put on masks or whatever. The fans behaved themselves. The stewards were great. They were very, very open. They gave clear instructions. I thought everyone deserves a massive, from the players on the pitch to the fans in the stands to the stewards to the club behind the scenes. I think everyone deserves a great credit. And also Mark Motley from Boro Support, he gave a fantastic video. I think he's head of the support. I'm not sure what his new role is, but yeah, he put a video out on Facebook and Twitter, just basically talking things through. He's been tweeting fans, and I think he's been really, really good. So he's that link between the club and the fan base, which I think is massive. So credit to Mark.
Good stuff. Joe, got one here for you. Joe Dargy, thanks for being in touch, Joe. He says his most exciting player at the moment is Tav. Who is exciting you most in terms of creativity, or just what they're doing on the field at the minute? And then I'll bring that one to you as well, Yousef. Do you want to have a go first, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a toss-up, I think, between Dijksteel and possibly, Assombalonga, probably, from the way, even though he hasn't got off the marks goals-wise yet, he's responded well ever since given the captaincy. He's responded well in pre-season, has Brit. But I think, Assombalonga, I think, obviously, being the captain was going to give him a new lease on life. Hopefully, he reduced the goods in terms of scoring. And then, obviously, like I said, with Dijksteel, playing in the centre-back position, obviously, which has been a bit unfavourable to him, from the start, obviously, with him being a right-back. But like I said, like I said earlier, he's learning from Hall, he's learning from Fry, and he's learning from the defensive setup. And obviously, he's been probably the best I've seen him play, obviously, for the whole time he's been at the Boro. So it's a toss-up in the moment between Dijksteel and Assombalonga for me.
Okay. Yousef, have you made any new signings so far?
Sorry, can you hear me?
What have you made of the new signings so far in terms of Grant Hall and Marcus Bettinelli? They've featured quite a lot in our game so far. What have you made of their contribution?
I think Grant Hall struggled a little bit. I think people have to remember that he hasn't played since March, I think, since lockdown, because his contract ran out. I think he's still trying to get his match fitness. But I thought he played okay against Bournemouth. But the previous two games, against Shrewsbury in the Cup, I thought he struggled. And against Watford, he looked a bit shaky. Barnsley, I didn't see. I only saw the highlights, so I can't really comment on that. But I thought Bournemouth, he won a few headers. And I think he'll grow. His leadership qualities is obviously good. And Bettinelli, I think he just reminds me a bit of Darren Randolph in terms of some of the saves that he makes. I mean, I don't want to, throw the gun a bit and say he's as good as Darren Randolph, but he definitely made some really, really good saves and a couple of top saves. So hopefully, and he's because of the crowd being only 1,000, we could be able to hear what the players were saying. And Bettinelli had the voice. He was shouting. He was telling the players, push up. He was, instructing them what to do. And I think that's what we need. We need players on the pitch that have got a voice. And I think Grant Hall and Bettinelli have got the voice. And apparently Sam Morsey is the same. So we've got players who can actually talk on the pitch, which I think we need.
Mm-hmm. So, Joe, 2 games in, what's your feeling about how the Boro have started this season? Are you happy with how we've started? Could it have been better? What's your feeling?
To be honest, I think 1 point, obviously, it's typical us, I think, in a minute, having 1 point from the opening 2 games. Obviously, we didn't do that last season. Oh, obviously, we did do that last season. But it's something we can build on. Obviously, the next couple of games for us, obviously, are going to be a good opportunity for us to get some wins on the board. Obviously, start with QPR this coming Saturday. They've only just managed 1 win from their opening 2 games. So hopefully, it could be the start. Obviously, going to the Kyan Prince Foundation Stadium, hopefully, is been a good hunting ground sometimes for us over the last couple of years. So hopefully, the away game at QPR on Saturday will obviously, hopefully be a start for 3 point. Going into these next couple of months.
Fingers crossed. We mentioned earlier on about Chuba. What's your feelings about Boro signing him?
Yeah, I think we need a striker because just looking at the bench, we didn't really have a plan B when we were 1-0 down. We it was quite lucky that obviously Marcus Bruyne came on for Fletcher and scored. That was obviously good, but we're not going to be lucky like that every game. But because we need options off the bench, and I think Chuba Akpom or Akpom. I don't know if the case is Akpom. Okay, yeah, Chuba. I can't say that name. Chuba. I call him Chuba. I think Chuba. Chuba's much needed, I think, just to compete with Britt and Fletcher, because at the moment we've only got 2 senior strikers. I know we've got Steve Walker, but he doesn't seem to be given an opportunity, which I'd like to see Steve Walker be given an opportunity. But listening to Warnock, he says, we've got 3 senior strikers and he's looking to add another one. But hopefully Chuba can score some important goals for us.
Yeah, that's a good point you make about Stephen Walker there. He scored for the under-23s today, Yousef, when they beat Stoke 2-0. And 1 or 2 people were surprised he didn't feature in the cup game last week against Barnsley. But if we say, with the squad we've got now, do you think that's strong enough to carry us through the season, or would you still like to see more players come in before the end of the transfer window next month?
I still think we probably need another centre half, and because McNair for me is not a centre half. You saw his excellent ball for the goal. What he can do further forward, and I think he offers something different to the other centre mids that we got. Savills obviously works very hard, and Morsey works hard, and Lewis Wing good long range shots. But I think Paddy McNair, he's got that delivery very, very good. So I think he's better further forwards. But I think we need another centre half, and I'd go for another creative, number 10 or a winger, possibly two. I think I know Warnock said we need another striker. I personally don't think we need another striker. I think with Britt, Fletcher, and Chuba Akpom, I don't know how long it's going to make me say that name. I think Britt, Fletcher, and Chuba plus Steve Walker, who are as a fourth choice striker, I think he can easily do that job. I think creative wise, we've only got Tav and Brown as like number 10s. I think we need another creative player. And with the wing back system, we've got our wing back sorted. We've got Coulson and Johnson competing for the left back or left wing back, and Spence and Dyke still competing for the right back. I think we just need number 10, maybe a winger as well for a plan B off the bench, and a centre half. So I think three more players. I think we'll have a team that's solid, that can finish safely mid-table.
Yeah, fair point. Like you said earlier, George, QPR at the weekend, so it's a quick return to South London and South-West London to Grant Hall for his return to Loftus Road. He'll come up against Lyndon Dykes at the weekend, who Boro were linked with in the summer, and he's got 2 goals already for Queen's Park Rangers. Do you think their battle in particular will have a big bearing on the final outcome of the game, Joe?
You never know, really, but hopefully, considering, like you said, with Lyndon Dykes, obviously we were linked with him, obviously in the summer, but he ended up eventually going to QPR because I think they had more offering than us, I think. But I think, going back to the Kyan Prince Foundation Stadium, as it's called now, obviously we'll give more motivation for Grant Hall to hopefully putting a good shift in, and obviously keep Dykes quiet, if you know what I mean. But it's going to be an impossible task. But hopefully, we have had good results, obviously, against QPR in the past, and obviously, from what I remember, as probably what Yousef will probably remember as well. Obviously, the 3-0 where we won there a couple of years ago with Adama getting his first goal. So hopefully, we'll have that some sort of performance coming up on Saturday.
Yeah. We have had some good results the last few years there, lads, and we got a 2-2 draw last year at a time when we were struggling, and Brick got 2 goals and we got a point. So time to put your necks on the chopping block, lads. What's going to happen this weekend at QPR? Come to you first, Yousef. How do you think the Boro will get on there?
It's going to be tough, but I think we need to get our first win out of the way, because the longer it stays, winless, I think it will just drag on, which we don't want. So I think we're going to sneak a 2-1 victory, and I think Britt will get a goal. He hasn't scored yet in the league, so I think he'll get a goal, and hopefully we'll get one of the midfielders, Tav to get it. So yeah, a 2-1 win for me.
2-1 win for you. I'm going with you on that. I think 2-1 as well. I fancy that. Joe Dario's been in touch again. He said 3-1 Boro. Joe Scott, what do you reckon, mate?
I think I'm going to join you lads on the trend. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Boro win. So, but I think as I've seen, from when QPR played away at Coventry last time out, there are a side that sometimes can struggle defensively, but at the same time can score goals from set pieces as well, which obviously, we're just going to come accustomed to us these last couple of games. So hopefully a 2-1 victory will probably be a start of obviously hopefully on a 3-point bearing run for the Boro. So hopefully we have to hope that QPR are in one of those moods that they do concede goals at those times.
Mm-hmm. A lot of positivity on the tech coming in about draws, wins. Nobody seems to be thinking we're going to get beat. So hopefully that'll bear fruit at the weekend and we'll get a win, and or at least a point. But like you say, Yousef, I think the sooner we get that first win, get that monkey off our backs, and we can start moving on with the season and hopefully build from there. Before we wrap things up tonight, lads, just the championship in general. it's a notoriously difficult league, I think, to predict and know what's going to happen in it. And I think it's pretty wide open this year. In terms of the promotion relegation issues, what do you lads see happening? What do you reckon, Yousef?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult division. I think that the amount of times where I have a prediction at the start of the season and then I look at the end of the season, it's completely, the opposite of what I'd sort of planned or expected. But yeah, in terms of teams going up, I expect it to be the same, teams that's in and around there most of the season. Although one of the teams that I thought would be up there, Forest, seem to have struggled, which I didn't really expect. There's been a lot of comments saying, they want their manager out and stuff like that. But yeah, I expect the likes of Norwich, Watford and Bournemouth, because they've got an unbelievable squad. I mean, I still think that's a squad that's capable of competing in the Premier League. So yeah, they'll be right up there. I think Forest, once they get this thing sorted. Stoke, I think, as well. I know they lost against Bristol City yesterday. But Stoke, they made some really, really good signings. I think they'll improve. But yeah, and then in terms of relegation, obviously you look at these teams like that they've just got promoted. Rotherham and Wickham and Coventry. They'll probably be down there. I expect probably Reading to be down there. We'll probably be down there. Hopefully we won't, but realistically, we're going to be there. Sheffield Wednesday, because of their point deduction, bound to be there. So it's hard because anything could happen. There could be a club that signs some really top players and a team that we expect to do well doesn't do well. But that's what we love about the Championship. Premier League, it's going to be Man United or Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal in the top six, and the teams that are going to be in and around there. But Championship, you never know. Coventry might be in the playoffs. Millwall might get in the playoffs. You just don't know. You just don't know.
No, it's a fair point. And the comments that are coming in have got us ranging from it's going to be a difficult season to some people thinking we'll make top 6 this year. It's nobody can really tell, can they, Joe? What do you expect or what do you hope for the Boro this season, mate?
Just hopeful not the same as last season, pretty much. Even if it's going to be like, say, a mid-table or top half finish, I will definitely take, to be honest. Probably what Yousef said, I'll probably see likes of Bournemouth, Watford, or even Norwich probably be up there at the end of the season in terms of promotion. I probably think Wickham will probably be certain to probably get relegated, but as you never know in this league. But I've got on the top of my head, I think I fancy Coventry to have a good run this season. I think I can see them probably up there in the playoffs some point in the season. I'd probably say the two Welsh sides, Cardiff and Swansea, I can see them up and around the playoff region some point in this season. So as far as the Boro goes, I think it's going to be either top half or mid-table for me.
Right. I don't think that's a sure. I don't. Lads, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you both on. I'm afraid we're out of time, everybody. Thank you for all of you out there for your contributions to the show, as always. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to Boro Fan TV. From myself, James Hutchinson, Joe Scott, and Yousef, good night. Until next week on Boro Fan TV, all the best and up the Boro.
Up the Boro.
Cheers, lads.